Hey everybody, it's me, Albatross. I'm back. Okay, let's finish this document real quick. Real quick. But I do want to say, please stay till the end because I do make some pretty relevant connections at the end. Okay, we left off, we finished the notable subject section. Now we're moving on to incidents, which is the quote suicide of Dr. Frank Olson. Early on November 28th, 1953, Frank Olson, a U.S. Army civilian, biochemist, and biological weapons researcher, jumped to his death from a hotel room in New York City after suffering a severe reaction to LSD that he consumed as part of a CIA-led research program on the intelligence applications of drugs and other behavioral modification techniques. The program, codenamed MK Ultra, was disclosed in 1975, and that's kind of debatable, being that nobody seems to know what it is. It doesn't seem like, other than the people on the internet talking about it, doesn't seem like anybody knows what it is. I mean, like I said before, I didn't even fully know what it was. I mean, I had heard of it, but it wasn't at all what I thought it was. But, so yeah. During the Rockefeller Commission and Church Committee investigations of dubious agency activities, and became one of the most notorious episodes publicized during CIA's time of troubles in the mid-1970s. Over the years, the revelations about Olson's death have generated many unfounded conspiracy tales. Another dog whistle word that the CIA loves to push out there, and that still circulate in publications and movies and on the internet. U.S. government interest in the potential intelligence implications of pharmaceuticals dates back to World War II, when the OSS's Research and Development Branch conducted research into their behavioral effects, as well as those of biological and chemical weapons. The U.S. Army picked up on those efforts in the late 1940s, after their tribunals, and they, publicly lashed them all. They picked up on their research efforts. Okay. Reports at that time indicated that the Soviet Union was experimenting with mind control substances, which heightened the CIA's interest in development of drugs and the investigations of mind control methods, so it could develop defensive measures against them. That's what they always say, just like when they, built their bombs. It's because they knew that the Nazis were building one, so we had to build one first, and as a defensive measure, even though it wasn't really defensive, we ended up using. But I digress from that. And then, when the hydrogen bomb, when they heard that the Russians might possibly be developing a hydrogen, not that they knew that they were, but might possibly be developing a hydrogen bomb, we had to go and do that first. You know what I mean? Same with this. So I guarantee you, I haven't looked into the Russian mind control efforts or whatnot, but I guarantee you if they continued their research, our country did too. No matter what happened publicly. They just went underground, like Allie said. But that's my opinion. Opinion alert. That was my opinion. Anywho. After the end of the Korean War in 1953 and the return of U.S. POWs from China and North Korea, fears arose that the communists had discovered ways to control minds through brainwashing techniques for the use of mind-altering drugs, such as LSD. The purported victims of such treatment would become unwitting pawns of the communists, the big bad communists, who could program them for nefarious purposes, feeding this anxiety. In the late 1940s and early 1950s, that's that era where they thought everyone was a communist, it was a big thing. were displays of disoriented or inexplicable behavior by prisoners in communist show trials and persistent charges that Moscow had attempted to corner the world supply of LSD chemicals, then manufactured only by Switzerland. And I'd like to say, and listen, I'm not saying I'm a communist at all. I am not, because I don't identify with any political party whatsoever. But all I'm saying is that if there were people or are people who are, wasn't that supposed to be what we were founded on, like the right to your opinion? Like, I don't understand that whole time period, and it kind of somewhat feels like a little bit of an excuse to me. I mean, I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Like, because think about it. Think about it for a minute. Like, the Russians were our allies during World War II. They were our allies. And then, like, and then they weren't. You know, I'm not even going to get into that whole controversial conversation. But I'm just saying that, like, if there was someone who happened to be a communist, like a regular American citizen, who maybe didn't even have any connections to Russia whatsoever, what if that was simply just what they believed? Like, what was so wrong with that? What, isn't this America? I mean, I don't know. That whole time period was very confusing to me. And now it seems to be like the opposite in effect. But anyway, I'm going to get off of that subject. I don't like politics whatsoever. I hate politics. And to be honest, I don't really know much about politics, so there you go. Okay. Such concerns in the aftermath of several failed agency operations in Eastern Europe, most notably in Albania, prompted the agency's Office of Security under DCI Walter Bedell Smith to launch an investigation, Project Bluebird, to determine whether the polygraph or hypnosis assisted by the truth serum could... Oh, wait, hold on a second. My bad. Dropped my phone. Could detect brainwashing. Among government employees, another project growing from Bluebird, Artichoke conducted CIA's technical services staff and officially launched on October 29th, 1952. So this is that precursor to the MK Ultra they were talking about. Began research and experimentation with a variety of psychiatric and psychological methods, including the use of various narcotics, to see if these could alter attitudes and behaviors. Under DCI, Alan W. Dulles, who publicly declared that the Soviets were developing brain perversion techniques. And you see, and that's another question I have. That's why I kind of want to look into it now. I don't even know if they were. Like, I mean, maybe they were. I don't know. I don't know. I'd like to look into that, though. I'm really curious to know now. In a sinister battle for men's minds. Well, yeah, I agree with that. It is a sinister battle, for sure. The behavioral program significantly expanded on April 1953 on the suggestion of Richard Helms, you know, the one that destroyed all those documents, head of CIA operations. The agency soon joined its research efforts with Army programs under the cryptonym MK Ultra, run by TSS Chief Dr. Sidney Gottlieb. The program came to include 149 separate animal and human behavior modification projects, some conducted by agency and Army researchers, but most involving one of 80 participating American and Canadian universities. And see, now they're saying 80. Before it was like 30. They keep changing the number. It's giving me a headache. Universities, hospitals, and research institutions operating under contracts that did not reveal agency funding or associations. As part of these drug research efforts, on November 18th, 1953, Gottlieb met with a group of CIA and Army researchers at a lodge in Deep Creek, Maryland, to discuss work that included the use of LSD. During the meeting, 8 of the 10 men present, including Frank Olson, consumed a small dose of the hallucinogen in a liquor drink passed among them. According to Gottlieb, all present were witting of the drugs in the beverage. However, the agency's internal investigation concluded that while Gottlieb had conducted the experiment with Olson's knowledge, neither he nor the others in the group knew what drug they had ingested until some 20 minutes later. So I don't really understand. I'm guessing they're saying that he told them that they were going to take a drug, but they didn't know what it was going to be. I mean, that's what I'm getting out of it, I guess. I'm not sure. Exactly. In the days that followed, according to Olson family members and his colleagues, Olson began to act strangely and appeared depressed. Realizing that Olson may have a serious illness, Gottlieb referred him to psychiatric counseling in New York. Well, wasn't that nice of him? Olson worsened. Go figure. They didn't help. And his associates decided to send him to a sanatorium near Rockville, Maryland. On the night before their departure, Olson Wait a minute. Did he kill himself in New York or in Rockville? I'm confused. Was he in a sanatorium? Was this before he went to the sanatorium, or was this after he got out of the sanatorium? None of that's really clear from what I can see, but that's a little confusing. Anywho, Olson crashed through a closed hotel window. Okay, so he obviously wasn't in a sanatorium yet. And hurled 10 stories to his death. His CIA companion woke in time to see the suicide, but not prevent it. Oh, gosh. I'm sure he tried, though. I'm sure he tried his best. Gottlieb reported the death to Dulles, who ordered the CIA Inspector General, Lyman Kirkpatrick, to conduct an investigation. Kirkpatrick recommended a reprimand for Gottlieb. And just so we're clear, nothing really happened to Gottlieb either. He kind of got off scot-free, got to live his best life, got to write some books just like the other guy did, got to retire. And it's weird because, like, usually in the military, you don't get to retire honorably if you're caught. But whatever, I don't know. You know? Maybe it's still going on. Maybe that's why they didn't get in trouble. Who knows? It's a thought. It's an opinion. It's an opinion. Okay. Who he asserted had exercised poor judgment in conducting uncontrolled experiments that could have seriously affected the record and reputation of the agency. Not that, it was dangerous for their members or their, workers, but, the reputation. It's all about that reputation. Kirkpatrick further faulted Gottlieb for not knowing of Olson's prior bouts of depression. Well, okay, so was it actually prior? Because it seemed a minute ago, his family said it happened after that incident. So, unless it was something they left out. I don't know. I didn't see it. Implying that the LSD experiment had acted as a triggering mechanism. Funny wording they just used. Directly contributing to his death, Kirkpatrick and Lawrence Houston, the agency's general counsel, expressed dismay with the casual manner in which the TSS personnel conducted the experiments, and were outraged. They were so outraged to learn that Gottlieb had ingested LSD at least 12 times himself. Oh, but he didn't get no dishonorable discharge, though. They determined that TSS personnel assumed risks in a cavalier manner. Oh, yeah, that was very cavalier of you guys. You took that risk upon yourself, instead of subjecting poor, unwilling civilians to it. You took it upon yourself. Very cavalier. very cavalier. Great wording. Great wording. That lay well beyond the normal standards of scientific process. You don't say. However, delays overruled the IG, and Gottlieb received only an off the record. Oh my gosh. What does that mean? An off the record admission. What does that even mean? They slapped him on the hand? They made him retire early? Like, what was the reprimand? They don't say. MK Ultra continued, albeit with significant changes and additional oversight, until 1967. Remnants of it continued under another project until 1973. So according to our government, it lasted about exactly 20 years, from the years 1953 to 1973, not including the precursor projects that were doing similar things. That's different. So, Okay. Last page. Olson's wife initially received word that her husband had died of a, quote, classified illness, and only later learned how he had been killed. Not until 1975, with the Rockefeller Commission and Church Committee disclosures, did Olson's family hear more of the truth. They disputed much of what came out and claimed that the agency or the Army had murdered Olson before he could go public with the details of the drug testing programs. Doesn't this all sound familiar a little bit, like jumping out of windows and stuff? I don't know. It seems like a repetitive thing, especially in in the public. The family received a $750,000 settlement from the U.S. government and formal apologies from President Gerald R. Ford and DCI William E. Colby. I don't know Dr. Olson's family, but I'm willing to bet they probably would have preferred it if the people responsible for his death actually got reprimanded, like for real. I don't know. That's just a guess. I don't know his family. Maybe they were just fine with the money. I'm assuming people are good people, and I need to stop assuming that. We all need to stop assuming that. The complete record of the case was hard to reconstruct because in 1973, yep, here we go, Helms, that guy, and Gottlieb, that guy, those two who, had no repercussions whatsoever, got to retire, got to write books, all that other stuff, got the honorable retirement and all that, had destroyed office records on MK Ultra in 1977. Wait a minute. So the family settled and all that before they destroyed the documents. Like, what? I'm so confused. Oh, wait, no, never mind. I'm sorry. I just needed to finish reading that sentence. My bad, guys. The print's so small, it's hard. Okay. Office records on MK Ultra in 1977, thousands of pages of related material about the program turned up in budget records, and when released under the Freedom of Information Act, became the basis for an expose book by former State Department officer John Marks called The Search for the Manchurian Candidate, the CIA and Mind Control. Members of Olson's family continued pursuing allegations of agency foul play for many years, but in 2002 announced that they were dropping the matter. Journalist H.P. Abarelli resuscitated the Olson version of events in 2009 in a poorly sourced and unreliable book. Yeah, right. Titled Terrible Mistake, the Murder of Frank Olson and the CIA's Secret Cold War Experiments. Trustworthy accounts of the story are in John Renlaw, The Agency, The Rise and the Decline of the CIA, and Benjamin Fisher, 50 Years of Supporting Operation. Oh my gosh. Okay, those are the trustworthy accounts. They don't sound biased at all. In 1951, okay, yeah, in the history of the CIA's Office of Technical Service. Okay, yeah. And then all the rest of the references. But let me know. I can pull up some more classified documents if you guys want. You know what I mean? Because there's more. There are more declassified docs that we can go through. I know most of them got destroyed, but the ones that didn't are bad enough. So, like I said. And, okay. There was something else I wanted to get to. at the end of this video. But first, before we do, I wanted to talk a little bit about the things that are peculiar. And I'm not sure, you tell me. Is it that they admitted to human experimentation, or is it what's weirder, that or the fact that people, even though this is public knowledge, public information, people still don't think that our government would do something like that? You know what I mean? Or maybe it's even though the CIA claims to have halted the MK Ultra project, we are now seeing things unfold today that directly correlates to their experimentation decades ago. And just one example, that whole Unabomber thing. What who was it? Who was it now recently that just got arrested for that assassination by that CEO that the news is like obsessed with making us care about? I mean, not that, I don't really like to watch the news, but it's everywhere. It's everywhere. So I'd heard something about this guy, Luigi. You know who he looked up to or whose material he read? The Unabombers. I'm not sure if he read something written about the Unabomber or if it was written by the Unabomber, but either way, it was his favorite book and it was all about the Unabomber. And we just read, what did we just read? I don't know. I mean, it's a lot. There's so much like weird stuff going on. And all I'm saying is, when you look at the dates, you know what? Before I get into it, let me just say this. First of all, like I said in my previous video, I went to school for science for a long time. For a very long time. I did many experiments, many articles, many peer-reviewed experiments. I was only a few classes away from graduating, but that's not here nor there. But as an upcoming scientist, there's certain things I know about how scientists work and how they act. Like, for starters, there's this thing in experiments in the scientific method that scientists like to eliminate that's called bias and things like that, right? And I talked a little bit about that before. But what my point being is that, like, if you were to ask me, in my opinion, like if the government came to me, right? If I was one, let's just pretend in a hypothetical world, let's say I'm one of these evil scientists, right? Not one that wanted to use it for good, but an evil one like the Nazis did. And let's say our government approached me right now and they said, Albatross, we really need to know how do we go about controlling the human mind, or methods to find out how to control the human mind. Like, where do we begin, right? Like, if I was an evil person, the first thing I would say is, you got to experiment on kids. And listen, before you come at me, I've never and would never, ever partake in anything so disgusting and despicable. First of all, it serves no benefit to humanity to control someone's mind. None whatsoever. None. And so I would be like, but like if I was this evil person, right? And we're talking mind control, it's a lot easier to control minds if you start when they're children, right? And I'm sure these scientists knew that too. I mean, their scientific methods weren't that primitive back then. I know they're not as good as they are today, but like, as far as behavioral stuff, if they want to mold something, they knew where to start. Okay, guys, we're not dumb. I'm telling you, from years and years of studying science myself, having a passion for it, that thinking in terms of these kinds of evil experiments that they were doing, that would have been the first place they started, was with children, and continue to go. Because, I mean, they're not gonna, your mind, when you're an adult, I'm not saying you can't control an adult's mind. I'm sure you can. But like, for the long-term goal, that might have been good for them for short-term, right? But like for long-term, the way that they were talking and all their goals, this was for long-term civilian use. Okay? You can't tell me otherwise. I'm sick of being gaslit. I'm sick of it. And as far as controlling the human mind, I know these scientists would have started with children. Okay? So, with that said, I started thinking real hard. I'm like, the public school system, right? And CPS, they're both federally funded. I thought to myself, when did this funding begin? I wonder. Because if you know how like government funding is, they're not going to fund something that they can't have any say over. That's just not the way it works. That's not the way our government works. If they're funding something, they're going to have some say in it. Okay? Our federal government. And listen, I swear I'm not trying to talk to you all like you're stupid. I'm not. I swear I'm not. I'm just I mean the way I talk, I'm talking to the doubters and the haters. Just those of you who understand where I'm coming from. I don't mean to sound like I'm a know-it-all, because I'm not. There's a lot I don't know about. I don't know much about legal stuff. I don't know much about politics. But as far as science, that's something that I know, like I would put my life on that they would have started with children. Okay. It's from a scientific perspective. And I Googled and looked up, this is for the public school system. Now, in the 1700s, they gave land to states, in exchange for the state to make a portion of land for public schools. So, and that was the extent of it, all the way up until 1965. 1965, they decided to start federally funding schools, especially to those with low-income students. And why is that date significant? Well, that's right at the peak of the MK Ultra era. Right at the peak. They wanted children test subjects. And what better way to get children test subjects? You follow me? Okay. Now, that's for the public school system. CPS started, I'm a little confused. It was either 1958 or 1962, but either one is, they didn't care about CPS, about Child Protective Services. Our federal government didn't feel the need to care about it until the late 50s and early 60s. The same federal government that is funding this nonsense. That doesn't seem a little weird to anybody? They literally didn't give a shit about children's education or about their protection or lack thereof until this time period? And in 1962, what is this? The publication of the Battered Child Syndrome in JAMA. Is that a thing? Is that a thing? The battered child? It could be. I don't know. I seriously don't know. I don't know about that one. Yeah. Maybe it's under another name these days. It's of the same thing. Maybe it's just under another name. But either way, it's just like they didn't care about any of this. They didn't care about any of this until the late 50s and early 60s. I'm going to look more into that publication and see what it says, because I'm not saying it's not a diagnosis. I'm sure it is. It's just probably a different name. They update the names to these things all the time. So I'm going to look into it and find out exactly what diagnosis that is. Maybe it's PTSD. I'm not sure. But either way, it's very suspicious, guys. It's just weird, don't you all think? I mean, I'm telling you what I know as a scientist, right? If we're talking about mind control, the best way to start is with children, okay? And they did. There was that one scientific study that I learned about in college about Albert and the rat. They traumatized this boy. They took this boy named Albert and a white rat that was his pet that he loved. And like every time he would go to pet this rat, I don't know, they would either like make a really loud noise or shock him or something to hurt the little boy. So every time he went to go touch or love on his rat, they would do something that would hurt him physically. And eventually it got to the point that not only did little Albert become afraid of rats, he was petrified of anything that had the color white. Like he was like it was horror. It was a very tragic case. I think he was ended up being committed, and I gotta look into it. But like I know he died at a very young age, and it was very tragic. I remember learning about this like 10 years ago in college. So like it's known that the government has experimented on children. They do. I mean, even though I didn't finish college, I know that. I know that. From a science point of view, that'd be the easiest way to control someone's mind is start from when they're a child. You can get them to do anything. So why now, after all of that we just went through, after all of that, you still think that Allie Carter's lying? You still think she is? All right. Well, then why are they trying to pull all our videos down? Like, seriously, all her viral videos where she actually, like, is exposing people that I've seen with my own eyes, you can't find. Like, there's a whole gap of time of her content missing. Scrub, gone. Why do they care if it's not true? I don't know. You tell me. But anyways, so let me know if you want me to go over some more declassifieds. I would love to. It's something that I used to do a long time ago. I'd rather not talk about the aliens unless the aliens are willing to help us find these missing children. I could give a shit less about them anymore. I used to, but I really don't because and if I find out that they are trying to help the children, I'll apologize to the aliens. But, until then, I'm not going to focus on that. We need to find where these children are and get them home. So keep asking where they are, guys. Have a good day or night, whatever time it is, wherever you are. And stay safe. Be vigilant and ask questions. Always ask questions.